Hello, and welcome again to another Something Something Chat Show where Tom Jr. Jackson presents After the Movie Review, Episode 10, Spooky October Edition. Today's movie is the 1984 blockbuster hit, Ghostbusters. But first, please remember to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and share the videos if you'd like. Also, please check and down in the description for the Brit Network, Positive Fandom, After the Sequels, and Ray Lytle's Morning Disaster. Check those YouTube channels out. And now on with the show, because I can't wait to get into this. So, for those who may or may not have seen it, Ghostbusters. Three scientists from Columbia University who believe in the paranormal are kicked out of their jobs and decide to go into the business for themselves. And all hell breaks loose. That, my friends, is the plot in itself of Ghostbusters. In 1984, I must have been about 8, maybe 9 years old. And one day, while on a trip with my parents, we stopped at Peekskill, New York. And we went to see a movie. I didn't realize we were going to go. And we saw Ghostbusters. And it is the perfect mix of horror and comedy. Right there. It's a classic. Instant classic. In the 39 years that Ghostbusters has been out in the world, it has become an iconic film that has spawned sequels, toys, animated shows, games, and so much more, with projects in the works as I record this episode. Ghostbusters was released on June 8th, 1984. It was directed by the late, great Ivan Reitman, who directed such films as Meatballs, Stripes, Twins, to name a few. It was written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. And originally this film was to be written with Belushi in mind to play the Peter Venkman role. And while writing this, literally like writing this and writing the dialogue for the Venkman character, is when Dan Aykroyd found out about John Belushi passing away. So they had to go with another route, and they went with Bill Murray. And Bill Murray did it as a tribute to his fallen comrade, John Belushi. Now, originally the film took place in the future and began with the Ecto-1 flying out of the Ghostbusters headquarters, and there was going to be like franchises of Ghostbusters everywhere. So they'd be like, fire departments, like the ambulances and all that stuff. That would have been Ghostbusters. And had it been made, let's see here, I'm checking my notes. Had it been made, it would have cost $300 million in 1984 dollars. So given inflation and whatnot, adjusted for inflation in 2023, that movie would now cost $882,668,274. This would almost be a $1 billion movie just to make it alone if they were to have made that original script. And honestly, I would have loved to have read that script. Not lying, if I knew Dan Aykroyd, I would say, sir, I would love to read that script, that original script, and see how it went. I would have loved to gotten a feel for the movie that way and see like the alternate version of it. So this movie is the perfect blend of a comedy of three scientists from Columbia University. They are into the paranormal, and one day they get a call to go to the New York Library because there's some sort of um, spookiness going on there. And in the process, they happen to find a ghost, and they got it all on tape. They get back to the university and they're fired. And they have to go out into the world and they don't know what to do. And then they decide, hey, we can actually do something like this. And they go and they buy a firehouse and they set up the Ghostbusters until one day a young woman named Dana Barrett, played by Sigourney Weaver, who had only been known at the time for playing uh, serious roles like in Alien and Aliens, things like that. And she had been known to play comedies in college, really, and she wanted to show off more of that and just not be known for just action films, which you know I find that admirable. So like some great casting, like the Winston Zedmore, the Ernie Hudson character, was going to be a bigger his that role was going to be bigger in the film and was going to be played by Eddie Murphy. And then Eddie Murphy dropped out to do, I believe, Beverly Hills Cop. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think it was Beverly Hills Cop. And the role was, you know, tragic, drastically written down a bit. And he ended up with Ernie Hudson, who, by the way, fun fact about Ernie Hudson, when they were doing the real Ghostbusters cartoon, he actually went to audition to be the voice of Winston on the cartoon, and they turned him down. They turned down the man who played Winston, who wanted to play Winston in the cartoon, and they wouldn't let him do it. That's crazy. Now, this film, let's see here. Let's see here. So, um, Ghostbusters was the number one film in theaters for 7 consecutive weeks. So, for 7 weeks, the number one film in 1984 was Ghostbusters. And it was the only one of four films to gross 100 million that year. The U.S. box office grosses reached 4 billion for the first time in 1984. It was the first time that two films had returned over $100 million to their distributors, and both those films were. Are you ready for this? The Temple of Doom and Ghostbusters. Those two films, $100 million. They recouped their costs from that alone. And Ghostbusters has achieved further because from further releases and from home video and from theatrical releases over the years, has a total gross around 295 million, so almost 300 million dollars it has grossed since 1984, and it made it one of the most successful comedy films of the 1980s. And for that to be a to even do that, it's amazing. So it had this film has a great cast, as Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, three very talented comedians. Bill, Dan, and Harold, and I believe Rick Moranis, who played Louis Tully. All four of those people were in the Second City. No, no, hold on here. It was Bill, Dan, and Harold. They were in Second City. Harold and Rick Moranis were in SCTV together. And originally in the film, there was going to be a scene where there's going to be a thread where I'm trying to think here, where Egon and Janine, played wonderfully by the brilliant Annie Potts, which I believe this was her first film as well, before she went on to fame with Designing Women. They were supposed to have a running theme of them becoming love interests. And there's actually, you can see it in Ghostbusters Afterlife. If you watch, there's a post-credit scene of Janine giving Egon a coin before they go out to battle Zool. And that was actually filmed during the original Ghostbusters, but cut out, but used as a plot device for Afterlife, which I really like that, which I think will play into the sequel that comes out next year, which ironically will be the 40th anniversary next year in 2024. It'll be the 40th anniversary. So originally the sequel to Afterlife was going to come out this year, and they moved it to next year, which is smart since it will be the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, which whoever decided to do that, genius, 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 genius. Now, as we all know, Dan Aykroyd, who wrote this film, he wrote this film. He wrote this film, Ghostbuster. Of course, it's a Ghostbusters. He wrote Ghostbusters 1 and 2, The Blues Brothers. He's written a lot of films, Blues Brothers 2000. And he was also involved with the making of the proton packs, the making of the containment unit and stuff. He said, this is how I see it. And he helped the special effects people or the prop people come up with these things, which is really, really cool that he did that. I mean, because he saw these things in his head. And originally, Louis Tully, played by Rick Moranis, was going to be played by John Candy, and John was going to do it, and he was like, well, I want to do him with a German accent, and I want him to have like two big Doberman pinchers. And they were like, well, we got these other dogs in the film, these terror dogs, and we're afraid it might be too many dogs, and they couldn't come to an agreement. And John Candy turned it down. So he turns down the film, and they hand the script over. They send it to Rick Moranis, who had been waiting. And he gets the script, reads it, loves it, wants to be in it. And I think there's a quote of him saying, thanks for passing on my biggest film ever. So something like that. I'm paraphrasing here. And Rick Moranis really came up with the idea of how Louis Tully should look and act and feel and be. And I really admire that when you get into that. There was some improvising. I know Bill Murray improvised a lot of his lines, some of his lines in the film as well. They had a very, very short period of time. I think they did the film in over 2 months or a month or 2 months, and then they had till June to get it out. So they filmed it. They filmed it. They edited it. They did all the special effects in such a short period of time and got it out. A lot of the shots of them running around the city for the montages and stuff, all that stuff was done without permission, permits or anything like that. So it really was a big budget indie film for that time. It really has that indie film feel to it. And Ghostbusters is one of those films that is so tightly made. And when I say tightly made, I mean like it just like clockwork goes from your A to B to C, boom, 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 and it's beautifully done. And um and every time you watch it, you just get sucked into it. And it's a very quotable film. It's a very quotable film from Nobody Steps on a Church in My Town. This Chick is Toast, which, by the way, I think went the um, into the dictionary under toast. It's alluded to that line. This chick is toast, so it just popped in my head. What did you do, Ray? Don't cross the streams. We're gonna have to cross the streams. And of course, everyone's favorite line is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick. A funny story about that. William Atherton, who played Walter Peck, who will be in the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. Um, from what I hear, I don't know how true it is, but they're saying he's going to be in it. And there is a story where one day he was walking down the street, I think like in New York or something like that, and a school bus full of kids went by, and they saw him, and they all pulled down the windows, and they all yelled out, "Hey, Dickless!" So he really wasn't happy about this film. And then again, he went on to be in Die Hard as the prick reporter, and Die Hard 2, I should say, as well. Um, so he's probably typecast in that role of being a prick. And I'm sure he's not really a prick. He's probably a really nice person in real life, but that's just a role that he, played. Um, it, dogs and cats living together. It's mass hysteria. That's another great quote. He slimed me, and like I said, this movie became a big hit. And it was even a big hit before it even was released because people would see them running around town. They didn't know what they were. And they would see Harold Ramis and they'd yell, "Yo, Brainiac!" You know, because of the way his hair was. And I think it's a very smart film. I mean, originally when they did the film, like I said, it was going to take place in the future. And it would have cost $300 million in 1984 dollars to make. And um, that's when Ivan Reitman said, I want to put Harold Ramis into this and he can help write. And I think it should be a going into business story. So it became like an origin story rather than we're going to put you right into the middle of the future, Ghostbuster franchises, this is this. And I love that. I love that about this film is that it's really getting about starting up a business, believing in yourself, believing in something, and people saying, "Oh, it's all hocus pocus. It's not real." It's a great film and it's a classic, and you can watch it to this day with your kids, your grandkids, your parents, grandparents, whatever. And it's a fun movie. It really is a fun film. Uh, I have the lovely memories of going and seeing it with my parents, my late father and my mom, and going to see Ghostbusters in a packed theater. Um, and I remember laughing and seeing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and all that stuff. And I really like that. As a matter of fact, here's another fun fact about this film is that the librarian at the beginning, she's the ghost that they see at the beginning. There was a much more scary version of how she looked. And it's one they didn't use. And that one went on to be in Fright Night. I find that really cool that they were able to reuse that. Uh, Ghostbusters is to me one of the funniest films. It is a funny film, very funny. Some people like it, some people don't, but it's a classic. And it's one of those films where you can, sit there and if you know it well, you can quote it. It's very quotable, as I said. That's a quotable movie. Back to the Future is a quotable movie. Like I remember, I used to work in a video store, and I was one day watching Back to the Future in there, and this kid came in and we started quoting the movie, and there was a young woman that he liked, and she couldn't understand it with us quoting the film. She didn't get it. This girl did not get it, and it must have been a guy thing, but you know, no, was it Ghost? No, it was Back to the Future. We'd be quoting, not Ghostbusters. I don't know why I went into that story at all, but it's fun. Oh, because it's so quotable. That's why. And Ghostbusters is quotable too. I think there's not a day that goes by that I don't see someone on the internet referring to mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together. You know, that term. It's an adored movie. It's a movie that people keep close to their hearts. It's a movie that's rewatchable and um, it's a New York based movie. It's one of those films if you wanted to find movies that are all involved in New York and you wanted to do um, you know, a comedy, a horror film, a sci-fi film, drama, action, whatever. Ghostbusters would have to be in there for something. And the cast is iconic. The cast is perfect in it. It's a perfect film. And like I said, it spawned sequels. It spawned Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which most people don't like the female version of Ghostbusters. It's its own thing, but technically you could say it's in another universe, that version of Ghostbusters. And it is funny. It's got some great female actresses in it. I'm not an apologist for it, but I love it. I love that film because it's a Ghostbusters film. Doesn't matter if it's not the original characters. It is a Ghostbusters film. You just plain and simple. It's a Ghostbusters film. And then we had Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is a loving love letter directed by Ivan Reitman's son, Jason, who wrote it as well, not only to his father, but it's a beautiful, beautiful love letter and tribute to Harold Ramis, who passed away. And I have to say that, Ghostbusters is iconic. You had, see if I can remember this, there was the real Ghostbusters cartoon. There was, see, the real Ghostbusters cartoon. There was Ghostbusters cereal. There was Ecto One. No, it was Ecto Cooler, the Hawaiian punch drink, Ecto Cooler, which love that stuff, and I wish they still made it. Maybe with the sequel to Afterlife, they'll bring it back. They had toys, and I had a few of them as well. And to this day, they still do it. There's even a Ghostbusters Fest where fans go every year to celebrate Ghostbusters, you know? And I think to this day, this film will stand the test of time for another 40 years, another 50 years, however long it goes. People will still find the film and they will still love it for what it is. And that is a horror comedy, a classic, and, a film that's rewatchable. Can't say that about many films. Well, there are some, but not many. So there's that. Well, I would like to thank all of you, my listeners, all watchers, I should say, watchers, I should say. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you can get notified when a new video comes out. And while we're at it, folks, check out the channels I mentioned that are down in the description box. Let them know that I sent you. And as well as this question, have you seen Ghostbusters? Did you see it when it first came out in the movie theater? And if so, what did you think of it? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you see it when it came out on home video or VHS? Were you a fan of the cartoon or were you not a fan of the cartoon? Let me know in the comment section what you think of Ghostbusters in of itself. And as always, folks, I am your host with the most, Tom Jr. Jackson, and this has been After the Movie Review, episode 10. We're coming in close, folks, on the ending of this wonderful ride that we're going on. This is the Spooky October edition. This is episode 10, so we have 3 more episodes to go. 3 more episodes to go. So stick around. We got some great, great movies to review for you. And November, I got some films planned as well to review. Some normal films. But other than that, we got some great things in the pipeline coming to the channel. So please don't forget to check it out. And until next time, folks, please remember we are all goof people. Please take care of each other. And remember, we are all goof people. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.